Good evening, everybody. We're going to make a start. It's bang on 7 o'clock. My name is Jeff Conquest. I'm the head teacher here at Woodland Middle School. So welcome everybody to our virtual open evening. The reason we do a virtual open evening is that we much prefer parents, prospective parents and pupils to come into our school and have a look around in person on a working day. And so after this virtual open evening, we would invite you, if you haven't already, to go back to our website and to go on to the Google Forms there. If you haven't already, book a tour around school. We're offering lots and lots of tours every morning for 2 weeks, starting on Monday next week. And I'll come back to that. I'll mention it a few times, I'm sure. So, in this presentation, I'm going to introduce you later on to my colleagues whose cameras are on. We've got Joe Vahi here, who's the head of Year 5, and Emma Gibson, who's one of our deputy heads and is our Senko. Sharon Hardacre, our other deputy head, camera is off. She's here. She's doing the question and answer triaging. So if you've got a question that you'd like to ask, please do stick your question into the question and answer section. I think it's is it into the chat box, or is it a separate question and answer? Into the Q&A box, and we will answer your questions as we go along, and we'll answer them at the end as well. So let us proceed. There's more and more people joining all the time, so welcome. If you missed the first few seconds, let me just remind you that the reason why we do a virtual open evening is that we much prefer prospective parents and their children to come in and have a look around the school on a working day. So from next Monday, Monday the 10th of November, we are inviting parents and pupils to come in and have a look around the school, have a tour around with one of the senior members of staff, and go in and out of classrooms and look at our school in operation. Okay, so you can book that by going back to the website after this presentation. So, as I mentioned earlier, if you could put your questions into the Q&A tool, that would be great. Mrs. Hardacre will be responding to those, some of those by text, and then we'll field some of those questions live. But let me just start by answering one of the biggest questions that parents may well have if if your child does not attend one of our traditional catchment schools in Flitwick. So the new Central Bedfordshire transport policy will be coming into force for September 2026 entry, and that new transport policy is for nearest school transport only. So if you are a resident in Greenfield, Westerning, Flitton, Pollux Hill, parts of Steppingley even, or even parts of Silsoe, you are actually closer to Woodland than you would be to the traditional catchment school. And unless your child has an older sibling, then school transport would no longer be offered to you to go to that school because we are a nearer school. If you do come to our school, then the transport arrangements are between yourselves and Central Bedfordshire as to whether or not transport is provided. However, we would like to just make some reassurances, or I would like to make some reassurances now. So first of all, in Year 5 for 2026, we will be able to take 180 children. We only have 135 children in our traditional catchment schools, the three lower schools of Flitwick. So there are plenty of additional spaces there for pupils who are currently living outside of our catchment. And for pupils who go to Westerning and Greenfield Lower, who, as a result of the new transport policy, effectively become part of our new enlarged catchment area, we will be prioritising those pupils if there is an oversubscription. Now, just to reassure you as well, that every pupil that has ever come to Woodland, who has ever applied to go to Redbourn, has always got a place, so long as that application is made at the right time by the deadline. And the reason for that is that Redbourn Upper School's own admissions criteria prioritise children who go to Woodland and Alameda Middle School. So if you are a parent who is living outside of Flitwick, in one of those villages that I mentioned before, and you do choose for your child to come here, A, there will be a place, and B, they will be able to continue on to Redbourn. They will get a place, even though you may feel that you're further away than a different upper school. Because obviously moving on with friends is sometimes more important than the distance to and from school. We understand that completely. So The transition from a lower school to a middle school is a little bit like this picture. It is a little fish jumping from a little pond into a slightly bigger pond, or in this case, a smaller bowl into a larger bowl. And that jump is potentially daunting for pupils. We find as middle school workers that jump is actually more daunting actually for the parents themselves. And I think that this evening is part of that reassurance program. And we have a number of other things that we'll share with you during this presentation that we will be doing as part of the transition work, because it is a jump, but we make that jump as smooth and as easy as we can for all of the pupils that come to join us in year 5. So, as I said, welcome to this presentation. We are Woodland Middle School. I'd just like to share with you our school vision, and that is that we are a values-based school, like all of our feeder schools, including those new ones that are joining our catchment. And as a school community, we believe that values are at the heart of our vision. Respect is absolutely central to everything that we do, to our ethos, and our young people, our pupils here, they will develop a lifelong love for learning, and that enthusiasm and desire to excel. That is our ambition. That is what we have achieved over many, many years with our pupils as they come through the 4 years here at our middle school. Values-based work is really important to us. It is part of our relational practice that we have with our pupils to make sure that we get really good behaviour in school and really good engagement with the learning. So, we are very proud of our pastoral structure and our pastoral care that we have here in school. It is obviously different from a lower school. In a lower school, when children attend the same class all day long, you get a very good relationship as parents with that one form tutor, that class teacher. It's a little bit different in a middle school, but it's still the form tutor who you'll build that bond with as parents. And so this picture, this representation shows that the pupil is at the centre of everything that we do, and around them, caring for them in a pastoral way, is their form tutor. In year 5, Mrs. Mahi will speak about this in a moment, I'm sure, but in year 5, we have 6 form tutors for year 5, and each teacher can have his or her own class, and they will teach that child for a proportion of the lessons. And so we try and recreate a primary type setting for the year 5 pupil, but we also have them taught outside of their form base in specialist classrooms for other subjects, which is a real advantage of the middle school, that children in year 5 will get to use our specialist areas like the food room, for instance, and our science labs and our music room. The form tutors are supported by a year leader. For year 5, of course, it's Mrs. Vahi. Each year has its own year leader. And the year leaders and the senior leadership team, that's what SLT means, are also supported by a number of pastoral workers, which I'll come to in a second. And then there's myself as head teacher. We're all involved in the pastoral support. As challenges increase in their complexity, you go further to the outside of that concentric circle diagram, and you'll be supported at a higher and higher level. So in addition to the year leader and the SLT, as I was saying there, we do have a number of employees in school who support families. We have an early help manager, we have family support worker, we have mentoring service within school, we have counselling, and we have emotional literacy as well, which we deliver with our own staff. This is all part of our ordinarily available provision that we have in school. I'm just going to take a little break from speaking and pass you on to Mrs. Vahi, who's going to introduce herself and talk a little bit about the transition work that we do from year 4 into year 5. So I'm going to hand over to her now, and I'm just going to mute myself so she can speak to you too.
Hello, everybody. So we carry out lots of different tasks throughout the year in preparation for your children joining us in Woodland. As Mr. Conquest said, from Monday, we will have our parent tours. So that will be for the next 2 weeks. In March time, there will be an arts morning. So this is an opportunity for your children to come to us in the morning between the 9th and the 11th of March. They will have the opportunity to take part in 3 different activities using specialist classrooms. So they will have a food lesson, they will have an art lesson, and they will get to be in the DT workshop as well. So that's one of the activities that we do. In July, we have our transition morning on Friday, the 3rd of July. So that's your child's opportunity to meet their class teacher, to spend some time with their classmates and carry out lots of different activities there. So that's in July time. In May, June time, I start to visit lots of the lower schools to meet the year 4 class teachers, to find out lots of information about your children. And we also have sort of question and answer sessions as well, where it's an opportunity for myself and Mr. Conquest to go down, visit and meet the children, and they have an opportunity to ask lots of different questions during that time. During the year and throughout the year, we have termly meetings with the year 4 staff from the 3 lower schools. Again, we discuss the children in detail. On Monday, the 6th of July, we have a Meet the Tutor evening. That's for parents only. And it's the parents' opportunity then, your opportunity then to meet the class teacher, see what class your child is going to be in most of the time. Once your children join us in September, we have an icebreaker event. This year we had a walk down to Manor Park and we carried out a treasure hunt. Children thoroughly enjoyed that. We also had the children also had the opportunity to carry out lots of different activities throughout the day in order to get to know their form tutor, any support staff and children in their class. Lastly, in September, we have our fun run, and that is a whole school event when the children have the opportunity to run, to walk all the way around most of the outside of the school on our school field, and the children thoroughly enjoy it. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Mrs. Gibson now.
Before Miss Gibson, I'll just interject. So just before we go to Miss Gibson, I just want to mention about some of these events that Mrs. Vahi has gone through from a perspective of parents whose children do not attend one of our traditional catchment schools. So, for instance, the arts mornings between the 9th and the 11th, although they are arranged with our feeder lower schools, if your child is coming to us and you know that they're going to be coming to us, if you let us know through our reception, through our office, then we would invite you to those things, because the 9th, the 11th of March is before offers of places at Woodland are actually given to parents. We wouldn't have a clue who was coming. So the invitations for that arts morning are sent out to our traditional feeder schools. We can't send that invitation fully to Greenfield and Westing lower schools, because obviously those schools also feed into Arnold Middle School, and so we don't want to interfere with some of the normal transition work of those schools. So, but if you know that your child is coming to us, if that is your choice, then if you can let us know at an early stage, we can certainly invite your child along to those events in March. By the time we get to the June, July, etc., then we would know exactly who's coming to us, and we would liaise with all the schools where children are coming to us to get all the information that we need. So thank you very much, Mrs. Vahi. Mrs. Vahi's email address is at the bottom just there, and all the staff at our school all have the same format of email address, including myself, so you can get in touch with us. I'm going to pass you on to Miss Gibson, our Senko, as well, and she's then going to talk through a couple of slides about SEN.
Evening. I think one of the biggest things that worries a parent in a move to a lower school is, will my child be looked after? And I think somebody wise once said to me that their school was an expert in transition because they do it every year. And I think that's quite reassuring. We're really good at doing transition because it's something we do every year. It's new for you, and so that's why it's probably very nerve-wracking. We do a lot of work to ensure that we have a really robust transition for pupils with special educational needs and disabilities. And that's already started in some ways by liaising with lower schools and thinking about children who might find the transition difficult. So we have discussions and meetings and become familiar with names. If your child has an education, health and care plan, I probably might have seen a document from the local authority asking whether or not Woodland can meet your child's needs. You probably have already selected the school you want your child to transition to. For those children who are on the SEN register, who have maybe an IEP or a behaviour support plan or a learning plan, there will be opportunities throughout the year for us to visit your child's current school. We'll watch your child in the classroom. We'll speak to the class teacher. We'll speak to adults who work with the children. So by the time they come to us in September, we have a really good understanding of what they look like in their current school, which will help us to support them when they move here. There's a huge amount of documentation that is shared between lower schools and us. We'll have copies of reports, professional reports, IEPs, plans, correspondence that allows us to see your child probably over a number of years and have an understanding of how they are. We also go to the experts on your children in their current schools. We speak to the TAs, the class teachers, the people who work with them, which gives us a really broad understanding. And also, we're very, very keen to meet parents. You know your child best of all. And so we offer various meetings throughout the year where you will have the opportunity to come and meet with myself or one of my colleagues. And we'll chat to you about your child. There'll be an opportunity for you to explain about your child. Towards the latter part of the year, what we try to do is put in some additional visits for your children to come and visit school. They tend to involve a tour of the school and a transition pack. So there'll be like a work booklet where they can just familiarise themselves with the school. That can be done at home or with staff in the lower school. We also offer an opportunity for them to come and have lunch in school to maybe spend some time during unstructured time and see what that looks like. So we are aware that some additional visits are helpful, but we're also aware that removing all anxiety is nigh on impossible because big changes do cause worries. So we also try to send out some information about how you can support your child with that. Some key dates to be aware of. November the 25th, I'll be running a Q&A session here in the school library. That will be an opportunity for me to give a little bit of an overview of what SEN looks like in the school, but also for you to maybe come with some of your burning questions generally about what your child might experience when they join Woodland. In the 6th of July, we have another opportunity for parents to come and chat, to maybe share updates or progress or information that might be particularly pertinent before transition. My email address is available. It's on the information report on the school website. So please feel free to email me if you've got any immediate concerns or questions. Either I will get back to you or one of my colleagues. But yeah, I suppose it's that reassurance again that it's a big thing for you because you haven't done a transition like this before. But rest assured that we do it every year and we're fairly adept at doing transitions now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Gibson. Just took me a while to unmute myself there. I've just gone back a slide. I'm just trying to go back a slide because the email address was on the previous slide. It's just got stuck. There we go. So at the bottom of the slide now, you should see that send at woodlandacademy.co.uk. That goes to our send team. It goes to Miss Gibson. It goes to some of her colleagues within the department. So the right person can pick up that email and answer that. So thank you again, Miss Gibson. And just so you would have read it on the slide just before, but this Q&A session that's coming up on the 25th of November, you can go back to the splash page on our website and you can book on there to come and join that event. Let us know that you're coming. If you don't go through that process and book it, you can still turn up, but it's just useful for us to know numbers for catering purposes. So a few slides now just to tell you a little bit about the school. We're very hopeful that you'll book onto a tour. Dozens, scores of people have already booked on for tours, which is great. There are spaces, and if more people want tours and we've got spaces, then we'll put on more tours. So we want everyone to come and tour around the school, and you'll see these things in person. So a little bit about our curriculum. Our curriculum includes specialist facilities that I mentioned earlier on for science and PE and music. We've got some fabulous computing spaces. You can see in our background here, our library. We have consistently good and outstanding teachers from right the way across our curriculum, from many specialist teachers. So our teachers at Woodland are a mixture of primary trained teachers who tend to teach predominantly in year 5 and 6, and then secondary trained teachers who are teaching in year 7 and 8. There is crossover because obviously people who've worked in middle schools for a long time become adept at teaching the curriculum across year 5 to 8, of course. And what we're very pleased about in terms of our attainment at school and our progress is that from entry to exit, our progress in English, math, science, all the core subjects and foundation subjects too is really, really positive, really good. We have equal emphasis in our school on core subjects and on the arts. There are some schools who, for whatever reason, decisions, maybe financial or otherwise, are are removing certain arts subjects from their curriculum. But we have lots of time in our curriculum for art, for design technology, for PE, for drama, dance, which is in PE, and also we focus on the arts when it comes to music concerts and productions, and you can see a couple of pictures here of those things. We have a lot of learning outside of the classroom. Some of that are lessons that are taught in school, in spaces that we have around the school, such as our sensory garden, on our field, or amongst our trees, our little bit of woodland. However, we also do run quite a lot of trips for students. Okay, we take children down to London. We take children to the theatre. We take children to different museums. We have fun trips to theme parks. We have residential trips as well for outdoor activities, adventurous activities. Here in the picture on this screen is a picture from one of our recent productions. The bottom of the screen there's a photograph of a rock band that was put together for a competition, and also a photograph there from Normandy, where we take our year eights across to Normandy to see the World War II graves and some of the Normandy beaches there, which are very famous, of course, from World War II. I mentioned quite a lot of our trips, but we also have lots of sports teams too. One of the photographs here is an amazingly victorious girls cricket team that became county champions, and in fact, beyond that as well. But we have events. I think I've actually listed all those things already in what I've been talking about. But the last two bullet points I hadn't mentioned, and that was leadership responsibilities. So as children become um, more mature at our school, we do give them opportunities to lead on various things, such as supporters for our parents' evenings, welcoming parents in, guiding parents around the school, sports leadership. And we actually lend some of our children to lower schools to go and aid the teachers there to run sports activities. We also have a house competition, which is a lot of sporting competitions, but also some academic competitions too, such as a spelling bee, and of course collecting those all important points for hard work and endeavour within class. We are very proud, as I said already, of our the value added that we give, the progress that happens at our school from entry to exit. We also have some very high expectations for demonstrating the school's positive values. We do have a very inclusive philosophy at the school, and that is why we are well known for supporting children with additional needs and with pastoral needs very well indeed, and that will remain the same, and that is what we are committed to. We have some brilliant play facilities at the school. We've got a huge adventure playground. We've got a table tennis area with a nice spongy surface. We've got a huge big playground for ball playing games. We've got a playground where ball playing is not allowed. We have our libraries open every lunchtime and before school as well. And we have some courtyard areas with benching and seating and shade for the sun. So lots of places for children to play. And we have no school is complete, of course, without its staff. We have an amazing staff, and some of our staff have worked here for very many years. They're very experienced, and they choose to stay because they're very pleased to be a part of the Woodland community. So, a final thought before we start taking questions and answers, and I've shared this slide a number of years, and these are two photographs here of a bunch of children from Flitwick Lower who had their photograph taken in the park at Manor Park at the end of year four, and they took their photograph again at the end of year eight at their prom night that we put on, which is like a little mini disco when they leave. And you can see the difference between the children in those two pictures. They're only 4 years apart, but certainly the middle school years, children grow from being very young, small, prepubescent children to, young people who are knocking on the door of but they're adolescents, but they're knocking on the door. They think they're adults some of the time. Okay, they're knocking on that door, and that is what happens when you send your child to us at Woodland and any middle school. You're sending some very young children to finish off their primary education and get a good grounding at the start of their secondary education, so they can move on. In our case, 98% of our children go to Redbourne, and then they do really successfully there. Okay, so there, that is what we wanted to tell you about our school, and we wanted to share all that information. You've met some of the key staff here at the school. We just got a little chance now to answer some of your questions. So, Mrs. Hardacre, have you got any? Are there any questions that have been put into the Q&A that you'd like me to answer?
Whether we have wraparound care.
Whether we have wraparound care. Okay, so our school does not provide a paid for service for childcare, but what we do have is quite an early opening time. So our school doesn't start till 8:30, but our school is open from 8 o'clock. So all children can be on site and supervised from 8 o'clock onwards. And so that's quite an early start. That does support parents. There are lots of clubs and societies that meet during the school day at lunchtime and after school. So they are planned, and so you would know about them in advance, but you can't guarantee on those clubs to be lasting all year round for childcare. So now we have attempted to put on wraparound childcare before, but unfortunately what happens is that parents enroll their child in year 5 for it. Halfway through year 5, they decide that their child can actually walk home by themselves, and in year 6, 7, 8, they never come, which means that it's not something which we offer, and it hasn't been a viable prospect for us as a middle school. Also, hitherto, all of our children have, or the vast majority of our children have been able to walk home from school. Obviously, we may have to look at that a little bit differently if we have lots of children coming from Greenfield, Westerning, Flitton, Pullixhill, etc. At the moment, of course, that's not the case. But yeah, so no wraparound care currently, but a very early start on our playgrounds.
How do we handle any cases of bullying?
How do we handle cases of bullying? So, yeah, I've done assemblies on anti-bullying this week as a coincidence, because next week nationally is Anti-Bullying Week. Well, first of all, bullying, fortunately, is very, very rare. We understand that it is a vile thing, and so any allegations of bullying are investigated very quickly, generally by a senior member of staff, and by that I mean a year leader, a deputy head, an assistant head, a deputy head, or myself, depending on the scale of the issue and availability of the personnel. And we'll investigate it, and if there is bullying, or even if there isn't bullying, then we will resolve that issue very, very quickly. We have a good reputation for sorting that out quickly. And that's a fair reputation, because that is what we do. We sort things out very quickly indeed. The definition of bullying by which we work is written in our anti-bullying policy, so you can see it. But my paraphrasing of it would be that bullying is some, very unpleasant, behavior, which generally speaking would happen over a period of time, or several, more than one instance, but not necessarily. It can be one instance alone. But the second part of the definition is that bullying is where there is an imbalance of power. And the imbalance of power can be a physical imbalance, an age imbalance, a number of pupils, several pupils ganging up on one person. It could be about mental strength, but there needs to be an imbalance of power to it for it to be bullying. Otherwise, it would be just nasty or unpleasant behaviour. But we would pledge to solve that as well, very, very quickly. So that is our practice, and the policy is borne out by the practice.
Twins, can they be in the same class? Do they have to be in the same class?
So the question is, if I have twins, can they be in the same class? Do they have to be in the same class? And the answer to that is twins can. In fact, we've had several triplets as well in the time that I've been head teacher here. So twins can be in the same class. Triplets can be in the same class. They can be separated out. We've got plenty of classes for that separation. And we are led by parents on the twin situation. And we're also led by the year 4 teachers. So year 4 teachers help us organise the classes in the first place. They give us a lot, their input is vital on which children could be together, should be together, or should not be together from their own school. And if they were to suggest to us that twins should not be together, one would think that they've already discussed that with the parents and the parents are in agreement. But ultimately, on the twin situation, we would go with the parents' wishes because we feel that parents would know best about their children. Yeah, the creation of classes is a complex issue, and it is largely solved for us by the expertise of the Year 4 teachers.
How we've heard a lot about support for children that need support, but what about challenge for more able children?
Yeah, so the question there is we've heard a lot about support, but what about challenge for able pupils? Quite right. Yes, we have a lot of able pupils, and our teachers are very skilled. They're very highly qualified, and providing the challenging class and taking the subject and moving it upwards and extending the learning to, perhaps, even touching on key stage three outcomes in key stage 2 and key stage 4 outcomes in key stage 3 is something that all of our teachers can do. Actually catering for most able pupils, more able pupils, is a more straightforward thing in classrooms than catering for children with additional needs, because the additional needs can be extremely complex. But we have had children for whom who have been very able, who we've actually liaised towards the upper end of the school with upper schools to provide even harder work. We've actually had children doing GCSE level work. Our staff could teach at GCSE, but we've had students who've even been stretched beyond that on occasion. So yes, there are ways in which we can stretch them, even the very most able. Yeah.
PE kit on PE days, and then how do we celebrate different cultures, backgrounds, and perspectives?
A question about PE kits on PE days. So when your child is here, they will be given a timetable. They'll get that timetable on the very first day in September. On the days that your child has PE, we would ask that they come to school in PE kit. And that means that they can come in their PE kit to school. They'll do their PE, and they'll come home in their PE kit. You can take it off them and wash it, and it can be clean by the next time they use it. This is something that we put in place during COVID times, and actually, it's been brilliant. It means that changing rooms aren't really used now for changing in, because no one is changing in schools. Children will go into changing rooms and perhaps take off their indoor footwear and put on outdoor footwear, but not much more than that. And that solved all sorts of problems for us in terms of the amount of time that's spent getting changed, and obviously changing rooms, as you will all know from your own childhood and your own experiences in school, changing room is a place where there really isn't an awful lot of adult supervision, and when children are getting changed, and so it's a space which is sometimes not easy to see what's happening, and so it's solved all sorts of issues for many schools. Lots of schools are doing this, so that is what we do. On the subject of bringing stuff into school, IEP kit, I can just mention mobile phones while I was on there. I often get asked about that. Mobile phones, we have a no using mobile phones policy completely in school. Mobile phones are not allowed to be used in school, but we do allow children to bring a mobile phone to school if that is the parent's wish. We don't encourage it. But if some parents would like to receive a text message or a phone call from their child as they walk up to the school gate, so that they know that they're there, and they've also got a phone so they can rearrange where the lift is going to take place from. So we ask that a child who has a phone on them turns that phone off, properly off, and they will store that in their locker, because every child in the school has a locker near their form room, and that phone stays off all day long, and it never comes on until they walk out the gate. So no use of phones in school, but they can bring a phone to and from school, so they've got it for their walk to and from home. The other question I was asked by Mrs. Hardacre was, how do we celebrate diversity culture in school? Several ways. Obviously, curriculum is the first obvious answer. So our curriculum is designed by all of our subject leaders, and we make sure that built into that, we celebrate different cultures within the UK, different cultures from around the world. Some subject areas are particularly easy to do that in, such as RE, such as geography, such as history. We do have an assembly program where cultures and different beliefs from around the world. Key holy days are discussed and talked about, so children learn about what other people believe and about their cultures from around the school. We invite people in to come and talk to us from different backgrounds and different cultures and different beliefs, so that children can listen to people and see people from different cultures and different backgrounds, so they can hear their perspectives and their views. And we also make sure, I mean, in our very own library, for instance, it's stocked so that our library offer and the books that children read can actually reflect the different cultures from around Britain and around the world. So yeah, we do have a lot of consideration that we have to make sure that different cultures are represented. And if you walk around our school on one of the tours, you'll see lots of pictures and posters up around the school of famous people, famous British people predominantly, in terms of their success is around the world. On the subject of people from different backgrounds, we also recognise that we have a huge number of students, pupils in school who have neurodivergence, and we do have a neurodiversity council in school run by a member of staff. We have members of staff who are neurodivergent too, and that council meet on a regular basis and help us solve some problems in school, particularly around access to learning and access to different parts of the school life from a neurodivergent perspective as well. And as far as I know, we're the only school to have such a council. Certainly Ofsted told us that they'd never come across it before, but they were very impressed by it. Mrs. Hardaker.
Be affected by the push toward the two-tier system?
How might we be affected by the push towards a two-tier system? Yes, good question. So I can more or less guarantee that your children starting with us in year 5 will be able to go right the way through a middle school system without any effect whatsoever. And that is because there is currently no plan for this particular pyramid to change from a 3-tier system to a 2-tier system. The local council, Central Bedfordshire, have a stated plan that all schools will become primary or secondary in the future. And I've been to meetings on a number of occasions, including at the start of this year, but there is currently no plan for what will happen in this area. There is currently no timeline, therefore, and there is currently no money to make those changes, which means that only when a plan is in place and money is put in place will those changes be able to start, and those changes would take several years before they could come to fruition. And in any case, across Central Bedfordshire, there are many pyramids that would need to change, and they can't all change at once. So if we were the very first or the very next pyramid within Central Bedfordshire to change, and a plan was brought up for consideration during the next academic year, then it would take several years for that to come into fruition with building work and so forth. But I can tell you that every conversation that I've ever had as a head teacher at Woodland, and for those of you who know me, you know that I've been a head teacher here for quite some time. Every conversation I've ever had with Central Bedfordshire, other head teachers, would have this school becoming a secondary school in the future. And so if we were to change from a middle school to a secondary school at some point in the future, down the line, 3, 4, 5 years time, then children who have joined us would just stay here, and they would keep on staying here unless parents chose for them to go to a different secondary school at some point in the future. So yeah, we see very little impact in the present moment, and even down the line, Woodland will be here regardless, even if it has a different age range. But if we were to change to a secondary school at some point in the future, then we would need a lot of building work with more classrooms and some upgraded sports facilities, science facilities, etc., which obviously would cost a lot of money. I hope that's a pretty comprehensive answer to that question.
It's a little bit about our last Ofsted report and what the school is doing to address any suggested development areas.
Yeah, so I've been asked about our last Ofsted report and what we're doing to address any development areas. Okay, so our last Ofsted report was in May 2023. It was classed as a good Ofsted. There were some very minor things actually that they wanted us to look at. One of them was questioning our teachers and the types of questions they were asking in class to check for learning. We felt that was rather unfair at the time because a lot of that happens anyway, but perhaps the inspectors didn't see as much of it as they might have liked, and so we've just put in more training, and we're just making sure that teachers are asking more questions and the right type of questions to ascertain what children have learned in lessons. The another area that they asked us to look at was for subject leaders to take more responsibility for looking at teaching within their departments and to give feedback to their own colleagues on how to improve their teaching. And the reason why that was given is because at that time, our practice in school was for the senior staff, myself, Mrs. Hardacre, Miss Gibson, to go and look at lessons and give feedback directly. And they felt that, perhaps we could share the load. So I was all in favour of sharing the load. So that was a quick win. Beyond that, if you look at the report, the one curriculum area was around writing. Writing is something that we would like to improve at Key Stage 2. Writing is extremely complicated to teach and complicated to assess. In fact, it's not even tested in an exam. It's actually all teacher assessment, and it's moderated by the local authority. And we have an expert in Mrs. Packman, who is our head of English. And there's all sorts of things that we've done in writing in years 5 and year 6 in particular. I'll give you a couple of examples. So we're having some writing days now where children are coming off timetable for a day and they're having a really exciting stimulus to go and do some writing. And in a day, they'll be producing, with feedback during the course of the day, some really good writing and having an extended period of time to work on that, because they have to put together a portfolio of writing. So having a bit more time in a block can mean that the portfolios of writing can be put together, and they can be better. And another example, we were taught a bit of training that we had last week, for instance, with our staff, was to remind them about echo reading, because reading is, the thing that you've got to get right from the very start. Reading underpins all other learning. Reading with fluency and for understanding is really important. We use an accelerated reader scheme here, and we'll show you that on your tour when you come around the school. And echo reading is an example of the teacher reading aloud and using the correct intonation and getting the class to read that back with the same intonation, because that actually aids understanding and comprehension of the reading. So just two quick examples of the way in which we've improved reading and writing. Yeah.
How would we deal with any negative behaviour from pupils?
It's a question about negative behaviour from pupils. I've talked about anti-bullying already, of course, which is perhaps some of the most extreme things. I mean, I guess this question is about low-level behaviour, perhaps. So we have high expectations of classrooms, but of course we have lots of children in school who've got complex needs. They find it difficult at times to focus in a classroom and to work in a classroom. And the way in which we deal with these things is through relational practice. We build up great relationships with pupils. We get to know and understand them. We get to learn how they tick. And we try to make sure that children are encouraged to do the right thing, that they are sometimes corrected to obviously do the right thing. And if we do need to use sanctions, of course, we do use sanctions, but we tend to use logical or natural consequences, as opposed to, just straightforward detentions or something. We do use detentions at times, of course, because sometimes the detention is the most logical sanction, logical consequence. So we will deal with each bit of behaviour as we find it. So we deal with individuals as individuals, but we also do have, we've got lots of rules in school, but to make it simple for pupils, we just say this to them. We say, you need to be ready, you need to be respectful, you need to be safe. And if you're ready, respectful and safe, then every single school rule that we have, you will be following. And so we do try and make it simple for children. Okay, it seems that there's no further questions in the Q&A.
I'm asking one, that's fine. I've put a link to the virtual tour
Okay.
in the chat.
So Mrs. Hardacre has been answering some as she goes along. There's another one that she's just answering right now. There's no more Q&A for me to answer aloud. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening. There is a link in the chat to a virtual tour that you can go and have a look at if you haven't looked already. There is a little, was it a 3-minute video maybe? 4-minute video online, which gives you a little look around the school, including some drone footage, so you can see the school from up high. And also, please, when you've watched that video, do also book onto one of our tours. If your child has got SEN and you'd like to come along to the Q&A with Miss Gibson later on in November, then please do that too. But from us, thank you so much for spending this time with us. Really hope you found this useful. Do email in any queries that you might have. Mrs. Vahi's email you will have noted down. Thank you so much. And this has been recorded, and we will be putting this as a stream onto our website via our YouTube channel. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a lovely evening.
Don't close then. Don't close it all time.